Hey guys, this is Comic Uno, and today I'm doing Comic Uno's Best Comics of the Week, and this is the show where I review all the comics I've read this week in one show. We go least favorite to best pick of the week and everything in between. So before I get started, of course, in the comments below, leave your pick of the week, because at the end of the episode, we do the viewer's pick of the week, and you have a chance to be highlighted on the episode. Now, jumping into this week's books, I had about 9 books, a pretty average size haul for me, so let's jump in. Number 9 for me this week was probably one of the bigger books of this week, and that is Devil's Reign, issue 1. I'm not a huge event fan. I don't really love Marvel events or DC events, but I always give them a try, especially if they're connected to kind of bigger ideas of titles I'm reading. So that's something I actually was really looking forward to with Devil's Reign is, yes, this is a Marvel event, but it's been building up in Daredevil. So I enjoy, and also it's the same creative team as Daredevil, so kind of a similar thing that they did with King in Black, and that was an event I relatively enjoyed. So with this one, something that really kind of takes me out of this and why it's a bit lower, I actually thought the storytelling, the way it was told was well done, and I like some of the cliffhangers of this issue, including Iron Man maybe running for mayor, and then this kind of bigger, almost Lex Luthor story of Kingpin running for president. Now that kind of delves into the bigger problem I have with this issue. Everything feels like it's been recycled. Everything has been done before here. Even the bigger story arc of superheroes being illegal and not being able to use their powers. We've seen that so many times over the years, especially post-Civil War. And even going with Mayor Fisk being president or mayor, that's something we kind of saw with DC Comics with President Lex Luthor in the past as well. So I just wish there was newer stories here, even though I think it's told in a somewhat interesting way. It just kind of felt bland for me because of that. I don't even think the artwork was as strong as we've seen in Daredevil. Some of the pieces felt a little rushed, especially the Fantastic Four section. So overall, I will pick up the next issue to see where this event goes, but I was a little underwhelmed with this premiere. Giving that 2.5 stars, and that is number 9. Moving on to number 8, which is the Superman Son of Calo annual. I was surprised by this because I love the Nightwing annual written by Tom Taylor as well. And this annual, I just felt like it was going through the motions. We get to see Superboy or Superman. We get to see John Kent fight against Lex Luthor, continue this chess game that he was playing with Superman. And there wasn't really any new information about Lex Luthor. It was just your run-of-the-mill Lex Luthor storyline, and it was kind of cool to see it from John's perspective, but I don't think cool enough for the price tag that it is. I don't think this is a necessary read if you are following the series. I don't really know where this is going to continue. Honestly, maybe it'll continue more in like Action Comics than it would here, because I feel like even though it was a John story, it felt like it was a leftover from Superman leaving Earth. So that was kind of the bigger story. Also, artwork-wise, I really liked the art in the beginning where it was Superman. But I didn't really like that middle art. I didn't like the John art. It felt a little messy to me. And it was hard to get into the facial expressions. I didn't really love the design for John. So that was also why it was a little harder to get into this issue for me. So overall, I still enjoyed this. I still had a good time with it. I liked seeing the interaction between Lex and John. But it's just kind of more on the fence for me. So I'm going to give that 3 stars, and that is number 8. Moving on to number 7, which is Fantastic Four Life Story issue 5. I thought this was the last issue, but we actually have one more issue after this. And this is the big event of Galactus, about to destroy the world, but from Franklin's point of view, which I didn't expect. And I liked seeing his point of view. I liked seeing somebody who was a different age than our main heroes from the Fantastic Four. Get to see what his family has been up to, especially his connection to Wakanda, I thought was very interesting. The actual big event of Galactus, hitting Earth towards the middle and beginning, I thought was a little slow, especially the Silver Surfer parts. But once you get to the end and you get to the revelation and what happens to Mr. Fantastic in the end of the issue, I thought was well done, and I'm excited to see where the epilogue ends up going. I thought it was a pretty okay issue, but I do think there's been stronger issues with this series, especially the Human Torch issue and the Invisible Woman issue as well. So overall, giving that 3 stars, and that is number 7. Moving on to number 6, which is Crush and Lobo, issue 7, a little lower than usual. Honestly, just because I feel like it covers similar ground to what we've covered before. It's Lobo versus Crush. There's some fun antics in between. Crush gets kidnapped again. So, it's a very similar formula to what we've seen before. And I just feel like it was a bit too padded this issue as we get to the ending or get closer to the ending of the series. I just feel like we could rush the pacing a little bit more here. But the artwork's really good. I love Crush's voice. I love the narration for this book and the style of this book. I just thought the plot was a little slower for this one. So overall, giving that 3.5 stars, and that is number 6. Moving on to number 5, which is The Amazing Spider-Man issue 80 Beyond. I was actually pleasantly surprised with this one. I like seeing a different point of view. We get to see Aunt May and Dr. Octopus teaming up. There's a really big ending in this issue that I did not expect for a point issue. So this is not really an official Spider-Man issue. Usually these point issues have to do with other characters. And I guess because Ben Reilly's our main character, having progression with Peter Parker makes sense here. And Peter actually wakes up. So that's like a big moment in the issue. I was just surprised they put in an issue like this. It's a Beyond tie-in. But I liked it. I like seeing that ending. I want to see Peter alive. I want to see, out of a coma, I should say. I want to see him, maybe not even in action, because I'm guessing he's not going to be able to move much, but just him talking with his loved ones, him involved in the stories makes me very excited. And even the Aunt May and Dr. Octopus stuff, if you like Superior Spider-Man, we get a little bit of, superior feel to this book. The artwork was pretty solid. Again, you get to see a focus on a character you normally don't get to see in action like Aunt May. My biggest issue with this, though, was definitely the dialogue. It was very heavy and covered a lot of the artwork, and that's usually not the style I particularly enjoy for comics. So that was my biggest nitpick for the issue. But still, I think one of the better issues of Beyond thus far. So giving that 3.5 stars, and that is number 5. Moving on to number... Oh, this is actually a little out of order for somehow. But number 4 for me is Mighty Morphin, issue 14. And this is, Power Rangers continuing its Eltrian war. And there's some really good character beats here, where we get to see Billy and Zordon interacting, where Zordon kind of has to get over this hump and help his team and figure out what his role is after the devastation and him being injured in the previous issues. And I like that it's between him and Billy, because they've had a lot of kind of butting heads in these previous issues. So I thought that was really the shining moment of the issue, and then him kind of getting back into action and a new look for him by the end of the issue. There's some other character moments here too. We get to see the heroes teaming up with the villains to fight a bigger villain. We get a little conversation between Tommy and Matt, or really about Tommy and Matt and their relationship with Kimberly. So there's definitely some nice little character moments spread out throughout this issue, but I really think the Billy moment's what made it for me, and that cliffhanger made it for me as well. And there's just some overall good progression for the plot here, and really great artwork as well. And especially because it's a combination of, again, character work and action for this issue. So overall, giving that 3.5 stars, and that is my number 4 pick. Moving on to number 3, which is Batman issue 118. So Batman is a new creative team, Joshua Williamson, which I was super excited for because I love his Robin run. I really love every issue of it. So if Batman could be anything like Robin, I was like, okay, this is cool. And I know Williamson and Tynion are really good friends, so it could really continue the legacy that Tynion has been taking over or has done, and seeing a new spin on that. And I think Williamson does a really good job at that. We get to see some plot points continued with, okay, what happened to Ghostmaker here? This is explained. And also just the aftermath of the big, battle of Gotham and Gotham celebrating. But Batman never wants to celebrate. He's like, no, I got to get some work done. And he gets to see some bad guys in a party where all these rich people are dressed up as villains, which I just thought was a really unique visual take on this book. And there's some good action that leads us to our bigger plot of a Batman Inc. And, you know, Batman keeping secrets about things around the world that he's doing, and he doesn't want the Bat family to know. So I just like the build up towards it. I'm curious to see what the arc's about. I like seeing things outside of Gotham and just seeing a new mystery, a new detective story as well. I just thought it was a good combination of things we love about Batman, making it feel familiar, but really having a new take on Batman as well. The artwork is really crisp for this book too. It just flowed really well, and it just was a well-crafted first issue, even though it's not a first issue. It's a first issue for a new creative team, and I really enjoyed it. So I'm giving that 4 stars, and that is my number 3 pick. Moving on to number 2, a book that really, really striked me, and that is Crossover issue 10. And this reminds me of that premiere, right? The thing I loved about Crossover issue 1 was just how meta it was, and just how different the book was. And this is meta on top of meta on top of meta. So we get to see this opener where we get to see intercuts of a script and a real man who's not really a real man because it's still a comic book. So we get to see this definitely interesting meta commentary there. Then we flip it to the Powers investigating Brian Michael Bendis of all people. And we really get to see some like really cool, you know, tongue-in-cheek jokes throughout that, and what it means to be a creator, talking to your creations. And then Michael Oeming is actually the person who drew that whole section, which was so smart, because Michael Oeming is the co-creator of Powers, and just having them both interact, you know, fictional people that are actually real, interacting. And then it's the build-up of, okay, who's behind all this? And kind of a Donny Cates who looks like, Alan Moore. An Alan Moore looking version of Donny Cates is at the end here. And it's like, oh my god, that is so interesting. That was such a good cliffhanger. And I just loved how meta it was, and how it really does stray away from what was happening with the regular story with Ellie and all that, and just goes back into what made this book interesting in the first place. And it's just this look into the comic book industry from a different point of view, from a fictional point of view, and from the art to the writing, it's just so smart, and I really, really enjoyed this one. So overall, giving Crossover issue 10 4.5 stars, and that is my number 2 pick. All right, moving on to number 1, which is Dark Knights of Steel, issue 2. Oh my god, I love this issue. This is so good. This is Tom Taylor at his best, where he crafts these really interesting Elseworld stories. And we get to see a lot of great characters and just building this world so well, where we get to see the aftermath of Jor-El dying, and you know, the kingdom trying to make a decision. Do we create war after this? Do we try to figure out who did this, and how do we figure this out? And then we get to meet other people around this kingdom. You know, it looks like the enemies or the other side of another kingdom, which is the Black Lightning Kingdom. So we say, okay, are we going to start a war with them? Are they the ones who are involved? So we have that, and we have a setup with that. And then we get to see Lois and Wonder Woman, who are also part of another kingdom, but looks like they would be the allies of Jor-El. And the really, really, really cool moment of the reveal that I guess her name's Supergirl. It's not officially said that Supergirl, but I believe her name was Zala. She is the daughter of Jor-El, and she is actually romantically with Wonder Woman, which I'm going to do a whole video about why that's important and why that was such a cool moment. But I love that, and I'm glad I was surprised. I'm glad that wasn't spoiled for me, because that made the issue even better. But then we get into this kind of injustice feel where, you know, obviously, again, people are reacting to the death of Jor-El, and the daughter of Jor-El killing the son of Jefferson Pierce, and really starting a war in general, and showing the darker side of what everyone believes are these aliens, and are the House of L's motives, even though Superman wants to show, no, that's not who we are, like, you know, let's prove a point here. So there's already this really interesting politics being built within the world, as we get to see, again, definitely a very different version of these characters, like Lois being part of, looks like the army, having Wonder Woman and Supergirl together. It was just such a well done issue, and it really fits in a lot of characters without it feeling overwhelming. It just feels like it's building up a world and building up a narrative, and still really progressing the main plot as well, and even some tension between Superman and Batman as well. And the artwork is just so good for this book as well. It plays so well with the writing. So overall, really enjoyed this issue and giving that 4.5 stars, and that is my number one pick. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Let me know in the comments below what your pick of the week was. And of course, the viewer's pick of the week from last week was King of Spies. And here are some comments about that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Uno, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.